A warm welcome to all our fellow participants today present here from St. Teresa's Institute of Education. We'll have our principal, Dr. Sister Tanuja Wagmare, welcoming each one of you.
Good evening, dear friends. It gives me immense pleasure to be in your midst. I welcome each one of you on behalf of the management and the entire STIE family. We are glad to host this session, Safeguarding Teachers from ENT Job Hazards. Friends, this is an alumni venture under the able guidance of our staff, Dr. Sheila Philip, along with Dr. Serena and Dr. Reshma. My sincere thanks to you. A hearty welcome to you, dear Dr. Chris D'Souza, and all you wonderful people. Friends, even during this time of crisis, it is the apt time to learn. Hence, let's remember, God is our strength. Every pain gives a lesson, and every lesson changes a person. So, here's a happy learning session to you. Thank you. Stay at home, stay safe, and God bless.
Thank you, sister, for setting the ball rolling. Dear friends, unprecedented times call for unprecedented actions. Such times often push us to the limits, or should I say, cause us to unite as a group. And that's precisely what a gathering like this stands testimony to. This overwhelming number of delegates belonging to the teaching fraternity bear testimony to the fact that we are all one in spirit. Teaching is a noble profession, and we've stood by this dictum. As teachers, we place teaching and our jobs before self and self-care. Incessant speaking, spending long hours in bustling ambiences with sounds that are loud, and breathing in particulate matter in the form of chalk dust has never deterred us teachers when duty called. So, it is for this reason that St. Teresa's has convened an evening wherein we sensitize ourselves to exercise caution wherever possible, so that we stay healthy by paying heed to the adage, prevention is better than cure. And for this, we have none other than the much sought after Dr. Chris D'Souza, consultant, ear, nose, throat, head and neck surgeon. He is a brilliant academician, a therapeutic doctor, and an empathetic human. His accolades include gold medals at all levels of his medical education. His academic excellence has been acknowledged through several awards and fellowships conferred on him. His research and writing prowess has been etched in the annals of medical literature in the form of several books and papers authored by him. So let us brace ourselves to make the best of this time together. Participants, a special request, please provide us your feedback at the end of this session. This will enable St. Teresa's to forward you your e-certificates of participation. So now over to Dr. Chris D'Souza.
Good afternoon to all of you. I hope you can hear me clearly. Yes, and you can, okay, I hope you can see me as well. Well, you know, I'm very grateful to Dr. Sheila Abraham for inviting me to talk to you about some of the hazards that teachers face. I've known Dr. Sheila Abraham and Dr. Philip Abraham for more than 35 years. Being a ear, nose, and throat doctor, I deal with a lot of occupational hazards that teachers face. This will include inhaling the chalk dust that you breathe in while writing across the board as you try to educate your students, as well as the use of your voice and other problems that you might face. First, let me start with the omnipresent chalk dust. Is it a hazard? Yes, it is indeed. The more you inhale of that, you can land up with a problem over a period of time. So therefore, there are several things that you need to face and do when you're writing on the board with a piece of chalk. First of all, make sure that if your classroom is does not have an air conditioner, that you have sufficient ventilation. Why? Because when you write on the board with a piece of chalk, the dust will fly directly into your face and you will inhale that. Inhaling a small piece of chalk dust may seem insignificant, but if you do it cumulatively over a period of time, it can land up with problems in your nose, in your throat, as well as in your lungs. By having a well ventilated classroom, the chalk dust will sweep by and hopefully you will not inhale it. The other thing is the use of the duster. When I was a child and in school, there was the duster which was used to wipe the blackboard. And of course, the child who was doing that, when he dusted the duster, he would also inhale some of that dust. That too is harmful. So in today's world, I think that using a whiteboard with a marker is much better and will prevent you inhaling the chalk dust. Of course, these are now expensive tools, but I'm sure that in recent times, this will have replaced the blackboard of old. If, however, you are using a chalk on a blackboard, first of all, make sure that that somebody cleans the blackboard and its periphery very well, so that there's no dust around. Make sure that the class is well ventilated, so the dust of the chalk does not enter into your nose. This is equivalent to those people who grind wheat and dust. As you can hear that it's called a chakki. All that dust is being inhaled by the workers. And over a period of time, they develop lung problems. So the ideal solution for that is to wear a mask, as we all do today. But this will be inconvenient in a classroom because your voice may get muffled and your students will not be able to hear clearly what you speak. So therefore, the solution for this problem is to have a whiteboard with a marker which can be easily erased without inhaling any of those noxious substances. I don't know if anybody would like to ask me any questions at this time. All right, very well. We move to the next part of the occupational hazard of teachers, and that is the overuse of your voice. I get a lot of teachers who come to me who say that my voice has changed, my voice is hoarse, and I get very tired by the evening. The cause because is incessant speaking. Now teachers must understand that your voice box, or your larynx as it is known, is a muscular substance, is a muscular organ. It moves because of the muscles in your larynx moving. So how do people develop problems in their voice? I draw the analogy to the fact that if you go to the gymnasium and hold a 2-kilo weight in your hand and you exercise with that continuously all throughout the day, if you do that initially on the first day, you might feel well and feel very strong. But if you do that continuously over several days, all your joints and all your muscles in your hands will start to ache because of overuse. So the larynx, the voice box, is a muscular organ, and it should be given rest. What I tell people to do, especially in the Indian situation, is listen to a speaker on the BBC. In India, most people will speak at, this is just for example, at about 100 words a breath. They will speak very fast. And then after a while, they run out of breath, and then they feel at the end of the lecture that their throat is aching and that they're feeling tired. This is natural because you're overusing your voice. But if you listen to a speaker on the BBC, you will hear an audible intake of breath. You will hear them say a few words, and then you can hear them actually breathe in, say a few words, and breathe out. So it's very important that you do this. This will, one, prevent your voice box from being overused. Number two, this inhalation will give your lungs the oxygen that it needs. And also, number three, it gives you inflection. Inflection means that you give a particular word a tone, and by doing so, you give it a meaning. If you say very fast, "Good morning, students, how are you?" So this is the Indian way of speaking. Whereas any person, if you listen to the BBC, they will say, "Good morning, everybody. How are you?" So these little inflections give the words that you speak meaning. And this is how people will be able to understand. Also, it gives your voice, your words, clarity, so that students who are sitting at the back benches will be able to hear you clearly. It also has the purposes of giving your voice box, your larynx, adequate rest, because remember, after all, it is just a muscle. In between words, in between speaking, you have to look at your students to see if they are registering what you mean. In other words, look at their body language. Some may be paying attention, some may not be paying attention. This is very important, especially in the younger classes, because I also deal with hearing problems. And very often a child who's thought to be stupid or not paying attention actually has a hearing problem. Because the child cannot hear you clearly, the child will respond inappropriately. And this is perceived by the teachers as the child being disobedient or the child being stupid and so on. But if you speak clearly and slowly but adequately, most students will be able to appreciate what you hear and what you say. So it's very important to speak slowly and clearly. Very often I get teachers who tell me, "Doctor, my voice is very tired and I feel there are a lot of pains and aches." So I ask them, when is the quality of your voice the best? Is it best in the morning? Is it best in the afternoon? Is it best in the evening? The purpose of this question is to find out, is this problem with the voice because of tiredness, of overuse, or is there some other problem lurking around? If the person says, "Well, my voice is best in the morning, but then by the evening I get tired," so this is because of continuous speaking, because your larynx, your voice box, the muscle organ, it is being tired out. So the solution for that becomes very simple. That is to say, pace yourself out through the day so that you do not tire yourself out. The other thing is, I always tell them that please drink adequate amount of water, because your voice box needs moisturization, and this is best done through drinking water. People will ask me, what kind of water should I drink? Soda? Should I have a cup of tea? Should I have this? Should I have lime juice? And so on and so forth. The actual answer is that plain water is the best. People ask me, can I have hot water, or can I have cold water, or can I have room temperature? Now, you will know your body better than anybody else. But as a rule, I suggest that everybody drink water at room temperature. When I say room temperature, I don't mean temperature at the height of summer. but something that is cool and pleasant. It should not be freezing, and certainly it should not be incredibly hot. Either of these extremes in temperature will harm your throat. So it's best to drink a lot of water. When people say a lot of water, what do I mean? About 2 liters a day is sufficient. But in between, let's say if you have a glass of water, approximately 300 ml, that is sufficient enough to keep your voice and your throat in good condition. If you drink water itself, because as you speak, you are also expending a lot of water through water vapor, and this can lead to dehydration. So drinking adequate amount of water is also beneficial in helping the quality of your voice remain at its best. When people talk, as teachers, you're very, you want to enthusiastically give your best in that lecture to the students and to all the participants. But you also have to remember that you, by watching the audience as you speak, and I can see some of your faces and expressions, you have to look at whether your words are having an impact. And if you feel that, well, your words are not getting through, stop and ask questions. Once you ask questions, that gives you a chance to rest your voice and give you a chance to listen and to hear what others have to say. When you do this, you give yourself a chance to see whether the students are understanding what you have to say. And therefore, if there's some, if they have not understood clearly, then you can go back and rectify that. So this is one way to protect your voice. Inhalation of chalk dust will also harm your voice. And that's why I recommend that people use just a whiteboard instead of the blackboard. Also remember to eat well. Now, if you have substances which are very pungent at lunch, or maybe, as a snack in between, that can cause a lot of acidity. Now, how does acidity affect the voice? Acidity will cause what we call constant throat clearing. Constant throat clearing will mean doing that all the time. That is a sign of acidity. Acidity is provoked by things which are very pungent, or if you have something which is fried. If you have something which you fried at home, that is fine, because usually the oil that you use will be used once and discarded by the evening. But if you have something fried outside, the quality of the oil may not be the very best, because this is recycled oil. Recycled oil is well known to be cancer causing, as well as causes a lot of acidity. When you clear your throat all the time, you are harming your voice. You have to remember that your vocal cords are the shape of 2 hands. When you speak, they bang against each other like that. When they bang against each other like that and then vibrate, sounds are produced. Now, if you speak very loudly or you shout, that's another way of harming your voice. I give you the analogy, like I said, if you go to the gymnasium and if you speak continuously and you hold a 2 kilo weight in your arm and you move it up and down for a very long period of time, your joints and your muscles will ache. Now, when you shout, that is known as explosive speech. Explosive speech means that you may try to lift a 100 kilo weight. If you try to do it, all of a sudden, you might succeed. But there's a greater chance of you injuring yourself. So with explosive speech, it's like clap your hands very loudly, very hard for 5 minutes continuously. If you clap your hands continuously for 5 minutes very hard, you will find that your hands will ache. The same thing holds true for your vocal cords. When you clap your hands very hard like that, for 5 minutes, it's equivalent of explosive speech, where you shout continuously. That damages the lining of your vocal cords. A small blood vessel in your vocal cords will bleed. That clot, if you stop speaking and you rest your voice, will get removed and get absorbed. However, people who shout all the time and who will talk loudly continuously, that clot hardens and it moves to the center of the vocal cords. And this will cause hoarseness. And then people come to us in the clinic with these nodules. These are nodules caused by speaking continuously and loudly for a prolonged period of time. These are known in the ENT world as screamers nodules. They're known as teachers nodules because these are found in people who use their voice inappropriately. Now, a lot of people ask us, what is the solution? So the solution for that is to rest your voice. So they say, well, no speaking at all. Absolutely no speaking at all. For how long? Depending on the condition, it can vary for a day to up to a week. I compare it to the fact that if you have injured your leg, will you be able to play football? The answer is no. The solution for that is to rest. If you don't speak, then the vocal nodules have a chance of disappearing on their own, of resolving on their own. And you must remember that even whispering is forbidden at that time because whispering will also cause the nodules to remain. So it's very important that the minute you find that the quality of your voice has changed is to rest your voice, drink adequate amount of water, and make sure that you do not eat things which will cause you a lot of acidity. If you ask yourself, at which time of day is the quality of my voice the best? And if you say it's at best in the morning, but gradually throughout the day, it becomes hoarse or the quality of your voice changes, then you know that this is caused likely by excessive speaking. I do not know if anybody would wish to ask me questions at this point. Yes?
Yes, Chris, we are running short of time now, so it would be nice if the audience raise their hands, and if they have any questions to ask, we could put it forward to everybody.
Okay. The other thing is that about noise and its deleterious and harmful effects on us. Yes, I see Galaxy A30 want to ask me a question. Yes, ma'am.
Telling your numbers.
Yes.
जितनी बार भी गाली आती ना मलयालम में सब बोल दे.
Hello, can you hear me?
I won't be able to unmute all, but it'd be very nice if the persons who are interested in speaking just send a message across. We will unmute them. Just
Okay.
type in a message.
Wonderful. The other thing that teachers face is noise. And you'll be surprised to hear that that continuous noise of this can harm you over a period of time. Noise is any sound that is below a certain frequency. Between 512 hertz up to 2000 kilohertz is the range of the human voice. Now, beyond a certain threshold, people who are screaming and shouting, these can cause problems in the ear and affect your hearing. Now, why is this so? Because sometimes the school bell rings for a very, very long period of time. People screaming in the classroom where the decibel level can go almost to the sound of a jet engine. And even the wearing of headphones. Now, I'll address these issues one by one. Now, the school bell, like very often, even in the hospital, we hear this horrendous noise of the bell ringing for close on a period of 5 minutes. This is definitely harmful because the frequency of that bell is somewhere 6,000 kilohertz to 8,000 kilohertz. These sounds are beyond the range of human tolerance. Like I said, speech frequency lies between 512 hertz to 2,000 kilohertz. But any sound either below that or above that is indeed harmful. And the longer it goes on, the more harmful it is. Children constantly screaming in the classroom.
Sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt you. There's a question for you, please.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a nodule which is a cyst. They are telling, and it's not that other cyst. It's only because of overuse of voice, and my voice is permanently like every time it is bad only hoarse. But I am a teacher, and how can I take rest for my voice?
Okay. You know, you say you have a cyst. Now, the cyst is not the same as a nodule. Now, the treatment for the cyst is removal of the cyst. Why? Because the cyst is going to keep on increasing in size. So this definitely has to be removed surgically. What most of us do is that we use a laser and we remove the cyst. Following surgery, the person will have to rest their voice completely for 1 full week. We also give that person speech therapy. Speech therapy is the equivalent of physiotherapy. That means we tell you how to speak again so that all the swelling that's caused by the surgery will gradually subside and you'll be able to use your voice properly again. If it is a nodule and the nodules are very large in size, again, those will need to be removed surgically. We perform these surgeries with a laser. If you have a cyst, this needs to be attended to surgically. I hope that answers your question. Okay, yes. Now the next part.
You can continue.
Okay, so like I said, a cyst, any growth on the vocal cords, these will have to be removed surgically. A nodule which does not respond to conservative treatment of rest in the voice and does not go away needs to be removed surgically because these will keep on increasing in size and will cause further degree of hoarseness. Now the next part is noise and sound and its bad effects on your own hearing. Any sound that goes beyond, like I said, 6,000 kilohertz onwards or below 500 hertz will affect your hearing negatively. That, like industrial noise, that people who live in factories where sound is being produced continuously, constant exposure to this can affect your hearing adversely. Now, what do I mean by constantly? When like the sound of the school bell that goes on and on for more than 5 minutes, children constantly screaming in a class, these things can affect your hearing negatively because we are also exposed to ambient sound as we walk on the streets. Ambient sounds means the surrounding noise. That's why people in the city of Mumbai usually have what we call noise-induced hearing loss. Noise-induced hearing loss, if you do a hearing test, will show that the frequencies above 6,000 kilohertz will be affected negatively. And once you have a hearing loss...
Doctor, may I interrupt you? Doctor, may I interrupt you? We are coming to the end of the time frame that we've had. This has been a preliminary run for us. And we are also in the teething phase. But I would request my beloved friends to please write in to me with your questions. We'd send them across to Sir. And if need be, we'll arrange for some one more session like this, if as per the need, because we're running short of time. And we never thought that we'd have so many participants, but the number of people who've registered has been a heartwarming feeling for us. And we're really so glad that so many teachers could connect together under one umbrella. So God bless us all, and we will continue to have many such sessions in future. And with a little more preparedness, and as we learn with the passage of time, I'm sure, things will get better for us. So friends, once again, please send in your feedback sheets. We'll send you your e-certifications, and questions will be directed and answered shortly as and when possible. Thank you so much for signing in, logging in, and being favorable to such a request that was made to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope whatever I've said has been informative.